Good evening. Buenas noches. It is such an honor to drive from East Los Angeles, which I proudly represent, to come to the West Side, to salute all of you and to show my very enthusiastic support for what I believe to be just an impeccable, socially responsible, conscientious organization, the Physicians for Social Responsibility here in Los Angeles. But I have a very special opportunity this evening. I received a phone call to ask if I would be willing to come to introduce somebody who I have known for many, many, many years. And so it's my honor to be standing in front of you as the highest ranking Latina in the California State Legislature here in California. In order to introduce a Latina who I know will be a stellar voice for all of us in California and in this nation, our wonderful Executive Director, Martha Arguello. Now let me tell you about Martha, okay? Let me tell you a little something about Martha. I've known her for years. I think we first met at UCLA. We were not USC, UCLA, as it's known in Latin America, UCLA, since our days at UCLA. We were part of a student-faculty coalition, and we just took matters into our own hand we just occupied the UCLA Law School. Okay, we just said, no, there are not enough women and people of color. We want progressive policies. We want to make sure that the law is not just something that's in the penal code in the state of California, but the law is supposed to be about justice and fairness and access and equity for peoples whose last names are also Arguello and Romero. So we just sat in. We picketed, we chanted, si se puede, and you know what? As even we're saying today, yes, we can. And yes, we did. But Martha, way back then as a student, she was doing then what she has continued to do throughout her life, and that is to not just fight, but strategically fight, not against something, but for something, for social justice, and to lead by her example. So for more than 3 decades, Martha Dina Arguello has been a leader in nonprofit advocacy, and with the past decade, the past 10 years especially, she has focused on the environmental health and justice movement. She's a brilliant advocate, a community organizer, and a coalition builder, and she is not afraid to be heard. In her new position as the Executive Director of Physicians for Social Responsibility, the LA chapter, PSR-LA, she is committed to making the voice of physicians a powerful instrument for transforming California and our planet into a more peaceful and healthy place. Martha started very young. She grew up in the Pico Union area of Los Angeles, and at the age of 14, she made a lifelong commitment to affect social change after something personal had happened to her. And when they say that, that it's the political is personal, what she saw was a friend killed by a school security guard, and it changed her life at the age of 14. And she made a dedicated promise to herself, in the memory of her friend, to her family, to her community, that she was going to be an agent of change. In the 1980s, Martha's extraordinary commitment to community health was established while she worked at the UCLA Center for the Study of Latino Health, and she organized the very first annual Mexico-US Binational AIDS Conference. And remember, those were the days of silence and of issues being taboo, especially in the Latino community. She stood up right away and said, silence is death, My voice has always been used as an instrument to be heard and to make change. Very quickly brought us together, Tijuana, Los Angeles, the very first biannual AIDS conference. She further worked as a health educator. She formed the first, there's a lot of firsts if you listen to Martha's bio, but she formed the very first Latino tobacco-free coalition. She also returned to her birth country of Nicaragua to contribute to the development of national health priority programs. I also knew Martha while I was then a postdoctoral fellow at UCLA's Spanish-speaking mental health research center under the direction of Dr. Amado Padilla. And in the field of psychology, there wasn't a lot of attention to mental health issues pertaining to the Latino community. Martha was one of the very first research associates who created the first of its kind back then, the first comprehensive annotated bibliography on Latino mental health issues. She basically found every single publication that addressed Latino mental health issues, and she compiled that so that professors in the universities could begin to cite the studies for the basis of our research. And while she was working as a health educator in the 1990s, Martha had an epiphany. She realized that although early detection can prevent death from breast cancer, that it does not by itself prevent the breast cancer. And she thought about it because she thought that was a very important moment in her life. I can address the symptom and try to make it better, or I can go after the cause. Martha has always been about the cause. So she joined PSR-LA in 1998, 10 years ago, to launch their environmental health programs, and since then, she has single-handedly grown funding for these programs by 30% per year. She's a coalition builder. She's emphasized always the need for local grassroots advocacy, working always in partnership with elected officials. She has lectured nationwide on the use of precautionary principle policies. Martha is an active board member of Californians for Pesticide Reform, the California Environmental Rights Alliance, and Californians for a Healthy and Green Economy. She also co-founded the Los Angeles County Asthma Coalition and the Coalition for Environmental Health and Justice, and she was appointed to Cal EPA's Environmental Justice Committee. I can certainly attest that Martha is a current and key voice in California public policy. She's a member of the Air Resources Board AB 32 Environmental Justice Advisory Committee, and she helped draft the early actions to reduce climate change emissions. She also helped draft the Cal EPA Environmental Justice Guidelines, and she serves on the steering committee. Like I told you, I drove from East Los Angeles, and when you come from East Los Angeles, you see the schools right next to the freeways, and you know the statistics on Latino kids, immigrant children suffering from asthma before the time they even get into kindergarten. We take a look at migrant kids working the fields in the Central Valley of California, and they become enrolled in California schools in Los Angeles. If you'll recall, one of Cesar Chavez's last fights was against the use of pesticides in the fields. That's how Martha and I knew each other, way back from farm worker days, always with the belief that si se puede. And right now, she is breaking ground as the first Latina to lead a major environmental health nonprofit in California. In the more than 4 decades of PSR nationally, Martha is the first Latina to lead any PSR chapter in the nation. She decided early on, and she continues to be, to have a lifelong commitment to social justice. She doesn't just speak or write about it, she lives it. As a longtime professor and friend,